Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and even good evening from where you're joining us today. Thank you very much for making the time. My name is Susanne Richter-Wilz. I will be taking you through the webinar today. So many of you I know already know me from LinkedIn. So thank you very much for being part of my community and my friends there. And I would like to take you through the next 15 minutes or so through the topic of collective intelligence and how it can help organizations to tackle challenges related to document and data processing. So I'm responsible for the partnerships and sales at ScaleHub, and ScaleHub is a leading provider in the area of collective intelligence. And I would like to take the opportunity today during my presentation to bring really examples from our own experience. So we've been in this business for some years, and you will see later on that it is a fairly new concept, but we've done our homework. So we have already a good number of partners and customers, and they allow me to share some of their stories today. And I think to hear what others experiences hopefully brings it to life to you. So we will have a chat option for you in both LinkedIn and YouTube where you're joining us. So you can use while I present the chat to ask questions. I've got some colleagues online there to help to answer them already. But at the end of my presentation itself, we will have a short Q&A. So if there's any questions arising that could be interesting to the whole audience, then we will have a few minutes to actually answer them. And if not, there will be some information on how to contact us so we can go into some more detail after today's session. But let me begin and let me just share with you what we're going to cover today. So the first thing we're going to cover is that I would like to explain to you today what is collective intelligence. So really the whole concept behind it and the theory behind it. Then also the when would you actually use it? So what are the challenges it promises and it actually delivers to help to improve or to solve? And finally, why and how. So really go into some examples of how to make this happen. And as I said, for those joining a few minutes late, there is a chat function. So you can use the chat during my presentation already to ask questions. There will be some people live helping you maybe with some of the topics, and we will have a Q&A at the end of it. So let me ease you into the topic and why this is also so relevant today. And I would like to start with some business challenges. Businesses today face many challenges, and that's not helped by the pandemic, by political circumstances that we all are affected by. And some of these have direct impact on the document and data processing part of a company's business. I would like to take three of those challenge areas to really focus on today and show some solutions that collective intelligence can bring to those challenges. And I'd like to start with talent war and staff shortages. And I don't mean airports, like many of us are impacted by airports, especially if you have been or going on a holiday very soon. No, I'm talking that the staff shortage, skill shortage, and talent war has reached many and almost all sectors and regions. And it doesn't stop with shared service centers or BPOs either. So everybody's impacted to some degree. And of course, this has an impact. And it has an impact also on document and data processing because it limits growth. It's not that easy to scale up an organization, but it also limits agility. So if you're in a business where your volume fluctuates, is volatile, then the options to tackle that may become less and less, and your agility is impacted by that. Now, during the pandemic, especially, organizations have turned to technology, finally, I have to say, for some sectors, to start automating their processes. And technology is really providing, of course, today a big help, especially when it comes to data and document processing. But it does not alleviate this talent war staff shortage problem altogether because unfortunately the technologies do not yet, in some cases, hopefully, deliver 100% quality. So there's still humans needed, there's still input needed, and in many cases also different skills needed that may be even more scarce. So the whole area of staff shortage, even if coupled with good technology and automation, is something that is increasing at the moment and is really putting a challenge to many businesses. That's not helped by customers becoming more and more demanding. So being used to having different channels available to them to communicate whether it's in a B2B or in a B2C environment. Being used to having fast responses, being used to having tailored responses is putting demands on businesses. And when it comes to document processing, for example, it increases the service levels, it makes them tighter. So in the quality of getting context right, for example, but also, of course, in the quality, in the time especially. So something that is quite a challenge when it comes to many business areas, especially when you consider that being customer centric and having a high customer focus and satisfaction is having a direct impact on the retention piece. So the worst that can happen to business is to lose a customer that's growing, that's profitable, and not to retain it. We're going to go into some examples later on in the insurance industry, for example, where that's quite a challenge, and how collective intelligence has helped some of our partners and customers to at least a little bit alleviate that issue. Now, if have not getting staff in the right level and the right skill, and having customers pulling and pushing all the time is enough, there's also limitations around us that protect, but also at the same time challenge businesses. And that's the whole area of data protection, GDPR and other regulations. So whilst they're there, of course, to protect, and it's very valuable, they also limit the way that resources can be engaged, external talent can be engaged, or even maybe the cloud can be engaged to provide different relief for these challenges. So 3 challenges we're going to talk a little bit more throughout the next few minutes. So what if, and I would like to pick a picture, which hopefully at the end of my session you will understand, is that what if I would be able to show you something that can help with those challenges. So to provide some relief in them, and for example, provide your staff on demand and GDPR compliant whenever it's needed. Which provides access to AI in a consumable way, so that AI can be made available as and when needed again, or when it's something that could help you to get the expected ROI and outcome of the AI you have invested in. And what if it's something that also has some positive impact on the customer satisfaction and retention, because it can help you tighten your SLAs. So sounds, like a lot of promises. And of course, what I'm showing you is not going to be the everything for solution for all the problems I'm showing you, but it's going to be something that is an innovative and new way of helping towards that. And it's something that you will see developing, in my opinion, the next few years, of becoming more of a mainstream thing, and something that's really going to be there in the forefront of business process automation optimization. So let me introduce to you the concept of collective intelligence. So at the end of the day, collective intelligence already implies a pooling of resources. And that's exactly what it is. So it's done in 2 main ways. The one, it pools the best of artificial intelligence, AI, and human intelligence, HI, in a way that it brings together a way of maximizing the benefits of artificial intelligence as they are now, as they will be in the future, because of course there's a lot of progress being made in that area. But it also bridges the gaps that this technologies or automation as a whole still has with human intelligence in a different way. And in particular with crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing in such a way that you have skilled workers from different types of crowds, which I will explain to you a bit later on, to really bridge the gaps and really bring in the intelligence. So the 2 of them working together in new ways, that's all what collective intelligence is about. Let's have a quick look at why that may be necessary to do it in a different way. Now, at Scale Up, as I said, we are in the area of collective intelligence. All of us working there, we have experience for many years in the area of digital transformation, and especially in high volume document conversions. So helping customers globally in many sectors to get into a digital transformation right. And what we've seen over the years always is that whilst we have always been in the area in the business of bringing technology to automation, that in a traditional way, these technologies have brought some saviors and also some more challenges. On the one hand side, rapidly some automation, some really good automation very quickly. If you look at today's technology out of the box, you can expect some really fantastic automation rates. But in most cases, not 100%, not 99%. That may be required to really call it a straight-through processing approach. So at some point, this could be 60%, this could be 80, this could be 90% of your processes or documents or data challenges being automated. It stops and it slows down. So any further percentage suddenly becomes something that takes time, and it takes resources, and it takes a lot of money, and it's even at some points doesn't become affordable anymore. So where are the disruptors now? So where could collective intelligence and come in to actually help with that? So the first disruptor is not new. That's AI. So AI, especially with the area of machine learning, NER, NLP, when it comes to some document processing challenges, is a good disruptor and has really put a push towards automation and pushed organizations closer to that 99, 100% rate. But there's still a gap. And what has happened in the past, traditionally, one's own staff has been bridging that gap, capturing data, validating data, manipulating data in some way, so that to get to this really high levels of automation. And this is now where the automation two is coming in, level 2 is coming in with the crowdsourcing. So suddenly you have access to a different kind of worker base that is like an extended workbench to support the business, and that can be called upon when required, with the guarantee of providing this level of 99 to 100%. I'm always hesitant to say 100% because we all know there is a human element in there, so there are always going to be mistakes, but it is as close to 100% as you can get it with this approach. So to really have this now and to say, okay, I can rely on my process, my technology, plus this collective intelligence, which I can call upon to get me to a level where I can really say I've automated my processes. When you look at Gartner and their hype cycles, which I'm sure many of you know, the hype cycle of business process services from 2020, that's the most current solution still, version still, there is something called human-in-the-loop crowdsourcing. And this is really exactly what we're talking about. And Gartner sees it or saw it in 2020 at a very early innovation trigger stage still, but as something that's going to be with us for the next 5 to 10 years, providing good support of business processes, especially in the document and data processing arena. And as I said, we have been offering this kind of services since 2017, and we have seen that the benefits that customers have achieved. And what has this brought to us? Well, the difference in the combination of AI and HI in collective intelligence is that you come into a situation where you can provide a managed service which supports customers. So the ones that in our experience have benefited the most and benefit instantly always are shared service centers, BPOs, and service providers who are dealing with high amounts of data and have these challenges a lot that I've showed to you before, because they can suddenly really pull upon a huge work help that is available. So in case of scale up, I said to you, we are one of the largest suppliers of these services out there. We have access to 2.3 million crowd workers and growing worldwide that we can pull upon. These are people, and I'll explain to you a little bit more in a minute of what a crowd is and how this can be applied. But these are individuals who have experience in the area of the data document processing, different languages, different industry sectors, and different focus areas. So including, of course, the whole area of computer vision as well. So because we're not talking about documents only, we're talking about picture-based information only. And the difference that collective intelligence is brought to us at Scale Up, for example, is by pulling upon the AI that we have in place, the AI of our partners, as well as these 2.3 million crowd workers, we can really guarantee a service to our partners and customers that guarantees quality and time at a transactional cost base. So High level still, I know. So let's, I know most of you would like to, so, well, what's this really all about? So give us some examples. So let me go a little bit deeper down to that. So 2.3 million people. I think if you had access to that, most of you, I hope, would say that would alleviate your staff issues, especially if they're skilled. And what I would like to do now is exactly explain that. So how can the three challenge areas, like the staff issues, the customer centricity, and the GDPR or data protection related topics be impacted by collective intelligence, and how does it work? How does it actually make a difference here? So starting with staff limitations. The one thing that the crowd element of the collective intelligence, the crowdsourcing element is bringing, is instant access to a lot of people. As I said, in our case, this 2.3 million people. And that's 24/7. So it's not like a follow the sun principle, but it's always an instant, it's just their principle. Give you some live examples. When we always do some benchmarks, we always like to see, so what is our crowd interested in, what kind of jobs do they really like, and what work is motivating them to do. And I'll give you an example from onboarding. Onboarding could be in the financial services sector. Say, for example, a bank is launching a new credit card. So a lot of marketing has been happening, and they are now launching it, and all the applications are arriving. And with them come the challenges of having enough people to handle them, because they come in different channels, of course. Our experience is that with our collective intelligence approach, we can activate around 1,000 people in 10 minutes to come to tackle the challenge, and very agilely go again, which I explain to you in just a few seconds. So it's a number that you can probably grasp, that it's a really big number of relevant experience that collective intelligence can bring to a business challenge. Relevant experience, that's important, because the AI is not only helping with automation pieces, but the AI in collective intelligence is also helping to tailor the crowd. The crowd can be tailored in many different ways. It is an extended workbench. It needs to fit to the use case of our or the customer and partner that's using collective intelligence. And the one is to find the right skills. Right skills could be something to do with languages. It can be do with a sector experience. It can be the right crowd can be tailored towards maybe a sector that could be more something to do with with a region that could be something to do more with time, or maybe with security aspects, because data cannot leave maybe a certain region like the EU or something like that. It can also be tailored by the type, because there's different types of people behind the big number there. So the vast majority are really individuals that form a public crowd, that come from different backgrounds and really form this kind of crowd to be pulled upon. But we also have a growing number of BPOs, especially worldwide, who are part of our network. And they help us in the sense of providing not only being a good customer, because they're using, of course, our services to have a pull upon the public crowd, but they also bring in their own people as specialists. So there are sometimes ways or sometimes use cases where maybe a real specialism is required. And these BPOs then have a way in a GDPR compliant to help with such use cases, which in most cases are otherwise not open to them. So it helps those partners not only to bring in skills to actually have access if they need of the crowd the other way around, but to remove their own slack. So if their resources are underutilized, they can bring them in. They help then others again out there to provide a good service with that. And the other type of crowd is always there, which is the crowd of our partners and customers themselves, who have the need for using the rest of the crowd. So bringing in their own people to boost efficiency, productivity, or to utilize them when, again, they have GDPR restrictions. So at the very end of my talk, I refer to some resources you find on our webpage, and you will find a very interesting case from the pandemic that actually just was around an internal crowd being poured in by one of our large customers in the health insurance sector. Finally, the solving staffing limitations is also something that is impacted by, or positively impacted by, the agility. the crowdsourcing approach is bringing, because the scaling up is as easy as the scaling down. So it's as instant and as required as the need is going to be there, which means that this approach is something that is not only helping in growth scenarios or in volume volatility scenarios, but also in emergency preparedness scenarios. Because if there is a business continuity need out there, collective intelligence and crowdsourcing in the way that Scale Up, for example, is offering it, is really a business continuity asset that can help to eliminate worries in the business and ensure a business is up and running even in an emergency. Now, when it comes to the volatility that this whole staffing limitation alleviation is bringing, let me give you an example that we have. So we are working in many countries. We started in Germany, but are now in many countries in Europe in the area of healthcare or health insurance, and particularly in supporting prescription and nursing documentation automation, an area where, depending on where you're joining us from, some of you are lucky enough that this is already highly automated in your country. If you're like me in Germany, you have experienced delays in that, and you really are still going to your pharmacy if you are sick with a prescription in paper format. And behind that is a whole process of administration in that. So there are service providers out there who are doing a fantastic job in handling that. So they are the go-between, and they are the ones handling actually not only the processing of the data and the documents, but also the financing around it. So they have very tight SLAs. They have days in the months where they have to deliver data, otherwise they are a huge financial risk, and they have huge GDPR demands on them in order to provide their services. They already have very high automation rates, so in the area of around 99% and more. But nevertheless, the last percentage, because of the huge volume they're dealing with, can mean a lot of human resources. And the challenge that they are facing is volume volatility. So in a real life example from last month, one of our customers at one day had 500 prescriptions that failed automation on one day. And the very next day, 1.5 million documents that for some very particular reasons failed automation. So what do you do in a normal situation? You start to panic to some extent. You get overtime in, you get your home workers activated, and so on else. Now, if you had the help of the extended workbench of the collective intelligence, you don't do anything, because it scales as your own resources cannot cope anymore, up and down as required, even with such a huge gap in volumes from one day to another. The other area that is not so much a limitation of staff, but is something that we get a lot of requests and inquiries for, is the social element of staffing. So a lot of organizations would like to bring work into areas where they believe they would like to sponsor. For example, for some reason at the moment, impact sourcing initiatives from some insurances mean they would like to look at bringing some work to Africa. Very difficult, giving GDPR limitations. We have many sectors at the moment who want to give work to Ukraine or the displaced people from Ukraine. Again, with the restrictions that unfortunately are in place there, you can imagine it is a challenge. And again, something that this crowdsourcing element of having access to a worldwide crowd, being able to limit it or narrow it down or tailor it to some needs, and with the GDPR compliance aspects, which I will cover now, it is something that also helps with those impact sourcing or social sourcing goals that organizations may have. Now, another area of volume fluctuation, but also another area that is cover a lot what many of the other challenges I would like to cover with some techniques and solutions, is the area of claims. And I'm choosing here an example that maybe most of us know, or some of us at least has experience with, as auto claims. So on the one hand side is unpredictable volumes. Maybe not so much in auto claims because statistics are very good, but if you think about other kinds of events or other kinds of properties, like when you think about a flood or a storm, you have in the claim area a high unpredictability. And no wonder that, of course, there's a lot of focus on that being an area where insurances are looking at how can they work better with that. It is also the example I want to use for having a big impact on customer satisfaction and retention, because the claim is the one event that really impacts, do I stay or do I go? So even if my claim is settled, if the experience has not been to my satisfaction, the likelihood that I will leave my insurance company is very high. And the insurer, just having paid out money to settle my claim, also lost me as a customer. So this is of course something that, if done in a good way, which insurance companies are focusing on, then it has an impact on that. And of course, it has GDPR restrictions, so you cannot do everything with this data. You cannot use any kind of external resource or technology to work with that. As you can see in this example, if it comes like auto claims, very much people still do rely on handwriting on a piece of paper rather than the device in their hand, because it's probably the shock element of it. So you have handwriting and not in the best of possible circumstances. You have, of course, poor quality input because the input may be made with a mobile device, and you have photo evidence as well. So you have all aspects of the computer vision period comes into it as well. So therefore, I want to use this example to explain a few of the techniques in collective intelligence that are applied to tackle this and to make this something that can help an organization. So how does this work from a point of view of the flow? In the majority of cases, collective intelligence is not a greenfield solution, but is something that is an add-on and a help when already existing automation technology is there. So in the case of an insurance claim, we would expect that the insurances who have many years of experience first would use their own IDP technology to get the most out of it. And they would then hand over to us those elements that failed the automation, any exceptions, any peak volumes, or any documents which they are not set up for, which could maybe be handwritten documents. What do we do then? So we first of all apply tailored AI to prepare and to help with the provision back of the clean data and the preparation for the human in the loop. And then we distribute it to the tailored crowd that then provides the rest of the magic, let's call it, returns the clean data, and then it's brought back together into the systems of the insurance company. And this is all again with guaranteed time and quality. Give you some example. I would like to take an example from our Asia business because it's quite interesting. So here we're working together with a partner from the area of automatic claims assessment from pictures, and together we are tackling this in such a way that the claims are not only the data is captured, but the assessment is made within under an hour, allowing the insurance companies there to actually settle within an hour. It's a very unique requirement in a market and a high expectation of customers, but it's something that's made possible. So they give you some examples of the kind of SLAs that could be achieved with this kind of process. So we talked about the staffing, the process flow itself, but let's talk a little bit more deeper and look about how can the GDPR compliances, for example, be tackled, and how is the crowd engaged. And one of the ways of working in the collective intelligence or crowdsourcing environment is with microtasking. This means breaking down a complex task into simple tasks that can be distributed to many in parallel, but also are very simple to engage a high amount of humans in the loop to help with the challenges that are remaining. And to do that, one of the tools, the techniques used is snippeting. You may have heard about that before. And snippeting, what does it do? It takes, for example, in this case, a form out into small snippets of information that are suddenly out of context. And out of context means also out of GDPR compliance in many use cases, because you do no longer have a context. If I see your first name, if I see your date of birth completely out of context next to another 100 dates of birth, it's not something that is mostly protectable. So such snippets then will be grouped and will be distributed to the crowd in different ways to be handled. Um, AI is applied for snippeting. So this is very important, because I hear more and more that, oh yeah, snippets, I understand we can do that. Yes, but here, in the way of collective intelligence solutions, in the way that companies like ScaleUp operate, there is a lot of AI behind it to make it really secure, to make sure that there is the context at some point is really so far away that it can't be reached, and the snippets themselves really do only reach a person at a time from one document, for example, if it's highly protectable, and that the snippets are reaching the right part of the crowd, like for example, the specialist or even the customer crowd when required. But at the end of the day, this is how it works. With one of the techniques, a snippet is being created, is distributed, then of course scale up AI comes back again to create a context again, to then deliver the clean data back into the systems of the customers so they can seamlessly run on. Now, the claim part of the snippets or snippeting helps with the document part and the text part of the claim. But what about the picture part? And what about the assessment side of it? So here, the picture here would be something like maybe a storm has happened. Somebody has a drone image of a roof, and now the damage needs to be marked and assessed. So the computer vision task is something that is growing a lot. The use cases are growing a lot. So autonomous driving, we all know it's happening, and it's the use cases are increasing all the time. For example, when it comes to maybe also drone delivery of the logistics organizations. In healthcare, computer vision plays a big role, but also in some areas where you wouldn't expect it, like table processing and AP processes. There, the computer vision approach can also play a major role in bringing an automation level up. And this is an area where we are working with partners and our own technology, and especially in a way to ensure that we can engage that big crowd out there. So this is because there's always still a human element, unfortunately, fortunately, whichever you want to see it, within marking and labeling images. And this is something that is quite challenging. And we have been able to simplify this in such a way that we can engage the majority of that big crowd, that number that I showed you earlier on. So this is something that we believe the computer vision side is something that will be growing, and the use cases will be growing, and something that an area that also collective intelligence can very much help, whilst technology levels and automation levels of technology are catching up. Now, we saw some forms and snippeting, which seems logical. We saw some, and hopefully logical, and out of context snippets being GDPR compliant. We saw the area of pictures. Most pictures, okay, could maybe be tackled with a crowd approach, if depending on the content they are containing, especially if they are also taken apart beforehand and before they're reaching a human. But what about if it is about semi-structured documents such as invoices, or unstructured documents such as email bodies, contracts, and so on? There are examples where snippeting does reach its limits and may not be the technique that is the one that brings everything together. And this is especially an area in collective intelligence where AI is applied in a major way, and the whole area of NLP, NER, anonymization, pseudonymization is really useful tools to help to still make it possible to be GDPR compliant, but to also utilize the crowd. So, for example, this is an area where collective intelligence can help organizations that are just investing in AI or AI supplier those companies who are the ones who are selling AI technology, because the clean data sets need to be created. And there's different learning techniques out there, but at the end of the day, the cleaner the data, the more data available, the better the learning experience, the higher the automation rates. And this can be costly, this can be time consuming. And this is again something where collective intelligence helps, because it brings the crowd again, the power of the crowd, in a transactional way, in a compliant way, into such business processes to help to train AI. It's also an area we have experience of being engaged, for example, when it comes to RPA, so robotics-driven processes, where the flow suddenly stops and there is interaction needed. So this is something where some of these techniques applied in such a collective intelligence approach would help organizations to also get the better use out of their RPA investment. So some examples that I've shown you. I come to some more numbers in a second and a few more examples as I wrap off with summarizing the benefits that you can expect from this approach. So the last few minutes now, before we go into Q&A, and please use the chat to ask some questions now, because we will be going over to some questions very soon. So I will spend the last few minutes now to talk about the benefits and summarizing the benefits. So we learned about that collective intelligence is combining AI and HI in a different way, especially putting in the power of the crowd, that it is like an extended workbench to organizations that could be end customers such as insurances, their shared service centers, but also BPOs. And what it provides is a benefit of unlimited scale when needed, up and down, imported up and down, without the need of a major investment upfront or a downsizing exercise, because it's very transactional, not only in the approach, but also in the commercial side of it. It provides the access to those specialist skills as and when needed, and that worldwide 24/7. It helps to increase service levels and guarantees service levels. So it helps that customer centricity side of things. It provides not only GDPR and regulation compliancy, but in many use cases that we see today, it increases security. And it actually enhances already existing relationships between, for example, a company and their chosen BPO. The approach of collective intelligence being brought into that as well is helping to do that. And we see and we help a lot of organizations in that way. And last but not least, crowdsourcing, collective intelligence is supporting impact sourcing initiatives and helps to bring new work initiatives, such as working from home, which we have learned is not going to go away in the way that we expected post-pandemic, and it helps to make them a reality. So the benefits cover many areas. And my last slide before we go into some follow-ups and resources and the chat and the questions is some impacts that we have achieved for our customers and partners in some numbers. So we mentioned the car insurance, and the assessment, not only the capture in 40 minutes, is a reality. And the 1,000 workers in 10 minutes is a reality for customers in onboarding situations, when you have onboarding documentation, for example, for a credit card, a new account, a new insurance, for example. You can find on our website a nice resource, a nice use case that you may want to look at with a video about loan acceptance processes, where we're helping an organization to cut their very complex processes down from 6 weeks for a loan to be accepted to 3 days. So again, have a look if you like at our website, or reach out to me, of course, and I'll give you some more detail on that. When it comes to quality, we help organizations to really guarantee and achieve the 99.9%. And that, as I explained already, with the prescription process, with the high fluctuations. So the 500 to 1 million one to the next is something that is real. That's not a single use case either. So we can show you a few of those examples where you have really this kind of fluctuations, and where collective intelligence have helped our customers to achieve a big improvement of the way they handle things. And I'm sure many of you wonder, oh, very well, but it must cost a fortune. Well, it also, in the majority and in most or almost every case, will provide you with some very significant savings. So we experience with the approach of collective intelligence and a savings of up to 35% and above, sorry, not up to, but even above, compared to the traditional way of working. And of course, for our BPO partners out there, shared service level partners out there, it also improves their margin in a different way because it avoids slack. So this is really one way of the cost element. Next to providing the other benefits, in a way, it's also providing some benefit too. Now, this is something that can be applied to many use cases. I explained to you some already. So whenever you are forms-based, this is something that you will benefit from. Whenever you have volatility, if you're dealing with handwriting, for example, challenges, if you have computer vision kind of challenges, if you're in an area where you really need more resources to get information from the context of your documents, then collective intelligence can help. It cannot do everything because the concept of microtasking, breaking it down, complexity down, as you can imagine, does not suit itself for many end-to-end processes, but it can play an important part within processes to help organizations to use their own staff, their own resources for the more value-adding task and have that flexibility, their agility added to their processes. So that's me. That's me presenting to you today. What I would like to say is this is the beginning of a series of webinars. So we would like to take some of the topics are raised deeper into more depths, different areas. So maybe look at more areas of how the crowd is being assembled. Some people may be more interested in the AI aspect of it. So watch out on our LinkedIn page or my LinkedIn page as well for more webinars to come. Please reach out to me at any time because I would like to talk to you. So you are linked, but maybe hopefully linked to me LinkedIn. So that's one way. You have seen my email address here. Reach out there, and you can also book at any time a one-to-one, so I can show you a little bit of the technology behind it. But before we close, I would like to really go into some of the questions that you have asked out in the different chat arenas and have a look now if I can, if there's anything that came up that I can help with answering now. So, I start with a difficult one and a good one because I'm sure that some of you out there, when you heard crowdsourcing, you thought, oh, because crowdsourcing for some has for different reasons a negativity to it, and this is a good question actually. So someone asked if such high cost savings can be achieved, is that legal and are the workers paid adequately? And that's exactly where the bad reputation of crowdsourcing is coming from, because there's this fear of the people not being paid in the right way. And I can only say that suppliers like us in the collective intelligence space, like Scale Up, we can assure in the way the technology is applied that the workers are legally employed and paid and adequately paid above the minimum wage in all cases wherever they are located. So this is certainly something that does not go against the social goals. Opposite, otherwise this promise of being impact sourcing helpful would not apply. So is the approach suitable for handwritten documents is another question. Yeah, absolutely, especially there. I mean, you all know, or most of you know, that there are very big advances are being made currently in the area of recognizing handwriting, and AI is playing a big role there. But nevertheless, there is still a gap between the achieved volume or the achieved quality level and 100%. So certainly that's exactly where the crowd can help, because you bring in also specialists or the crowd tailoring to handwriting, because handwriting is very different between countries, for example, can be very, very, very useful in getting the quality very high. So another good question is, apart from insurances like I used, which sectors can benefit from collective intelligence? Almost all. So I'll give you some examples where we see a lot of the use cases at the moment. So BPOs, as I said already, are service providers. They of course deal with many different sectors. So it's a sector in themselves. We see as a big channel, a big partner base for ourselves. And of course, as you can imagine, they're dealing with all kinds of things. But the whole area of financial services, the onboarding, the loan side of things, that's one area. Logistics, transport, supply chain. So they all are very much related in the challenges, is benefiting in a major way from it. We are dealing a lot with public sector sides of it as well. So when it comes to a lot of forms-based interactions, or there's a lot of in the smart city environment, these computer vision type tasks, or censuses, that kind of thing. Education, exam handling, where you have this high volume fluctuation is another area. So many more. Again, I encourage you to have a look at our webpage, because we constantly trying to publish use cases and experience from our customers there. So, and there are probably too many for me to mention. So there's another question here now going towards cost. So I talked about cost savings. I talked about it being transactional. The question is, so what are the costs involved to incorporate our solution or collective intelligence solution? The principle of collective intelligence to be engaged is, first of all, a non-intrusive way, which means it's not usually a huge IT project behind it, but there's very innovative ways to have the interface in between the existing legacy systems and handing the data over. So there can be some cost involved in setting this up, one-time costs, and thereafter, excuse me, the costs are purely transactional. So really, as and when there are volumes put through the solution, it's how the cost then occurs. Right. What other questions do we have? So the another question, which is I think is similar to what we had before, are any form-based use cases suitable for this approach, and any language? So forms, if there are forms still out there, and we see at the moment they are coming, there's even a tendency for some forms use cases increasing, especially in the area of information gathering about customer or customer bases. Yes, forms it's a very easy way, but it's not only forms. So some of you may heard about this approach before, and it was always associated with forms. It's no longer just that. It's suitable for semi-structured documents, unstructured documents to some extent, and also for pictures. And languages, yes, especially that, because the crowd is worldwide. So with our crowd, we have experience in around 150 languages now. Some of them also being historical, in the sense of maybe historical handwriting, for example, or even artificial languages. So yes, the crowd, that's the beauty of it, makes it possible. So if you see, for example, being an extended workbench, that we help organizations when they have covered their main language or their country's languages or languages adequately, but then suddenly they have engaged maybe with Asian type script documentation, and they don't have that expertise in there. So that's of course when you can switch on the crowd in a way to help with that. And how do you make the other question was related to this now, and hopefully, and that will be the last one, because otherwise I'm not holding my promise of the 50 minutes, is what about the pricing? So how do you tailor the pricing to the forms? But it is transactional pricing in all cases, and it will always go to the lowest unit possible to provide our customers and partners with the most agility, because it's all about agility and the pricing of collective intelligence in the way that it is a managed microservice in a way as to follow that, and therefore makes it hopefully an attractive approach for helping you with the document and data centric process challenges. So thank you very much. That's really it for now. We are taking up any other questions offline. Come back to you. Please reach out. You can reach out to me via um, email, via LinkedIn, and I hope to speak to you personally very, very soon. Thank you very much.